and welcome to the First Watch podcast. My name is Drake. I will be your host for this podcast. I will be joined by a rotating group of friends who come together and discuss their first watches, whether they be from the 1920s, the 2020s, or anything in between. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy podcast, so if you haven't watched the movie already, you could either do one of two things. You could either, one, join us for the conversation and decide whether or not you want to watch the movie for the very first time, or two, you can pause this podcast, go watch the movie for the first time, and then come back and join us for the conversation. Now, without further ado, sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the combo. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the First Watch podcast. Today, I've got someone new on the podcast.
It's me.
I met Cole, I think it was the podcast that we did together for Cinema Pursuit for Vikash. We did a horror draft. Like, I had been talking to you through text,
Yes.
but we did a horror movie draft podcast, which was a ton of fun. If anybody has not seen that before, they should go check that out. It was so fun. And in doing so, I had found out that Cole has quite the eclectic taste in movies. So I don't think I had an episode out yet at this point for the First Watch podcast, but I think everything was kind of in motion at the time. So I was like, oh yeah, eventually I need to have Cole on here because I know that he's going to give me a fucking curveball and we're going to have fun with it. So speaking of curveballs, he gave us our first one I don't even know if I'm going to be able to say the name of this movie correctly because I'm a pasty white boy.
Technically pronounced, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like Gonjiam or something like that.
I believe it's Gojima, yeah, or Gojima, something like that.
Gojima, yeah, somewhere around there. It's a Korean horror found footage film where a group of influencers, YouTubers, whatever, come together after hearing about a mental asylum that has been kind of shut down and withering away for years. They decide to go to a mental asylum that's supposed to be haunted. There have been a couple of people that have gone there before, and the rumors were that people had disappeared, that they never came back. Typical, paranormal kind of trope that you hear. This is the first time I've actually seen an international horror film. I've only seen international drama films. I've never really seen international horror films. So whenever you gave this to me, I was like, oh no, I don't know what to expect. Other than Pan's Labyrinth. I think Pan's Labyrinth is the only horror film that I've seen. But I was like, I don't know what to expect from this. And I was immediately terrified because I was like, I don't do well with paranormal movies because I've had my fair share of experiences. I was kind of like, this is gonna be interesting. How did you find out about this film? Because I had no idea. And this was nowhere near my radar.
So I love horror movies in general. So I follow a lot of horror content creators who review movies or review video games or ARGs, stuff like that. And one of them specifically is a content creator who reviews Asian horror movies, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and they were talking about this one. I was like, oh, that looks like fun. I'm not going to watch the synopsis. I'm going to watch that movie.
Yeah.
But they gave it like a 8.5, I think, out of 10. And I was like, that's pretty high for a horror movie. I'm going to take that.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of experience with international horror films. I have a bit of experience with regular horror films. I stay away from paranormal stuff for obvious reasons. From the conversations that we have had, I know you have a lot of experience with paranormal movies. So when it comes to this movie compared to other ones that you've seen in general, where would this kind of stack up for you?
This movie really reminded me of right when As Above, So Below came out. It's very similar in its scares, and it's very similar in the quality that it was made and the type of found footage movie it is. It also is definitely leaning a lot on how Grave Encounters was shot, where they have a lot of these cameras up in corners facing down and stuff. Like it's very much whereas Grave Encounters was kind of like trying to make fun of popular ghost hunting shows at the time. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum definitely leans more into these are influencers trying to do something that they don't quite understand.
The the movie opens up with a couple of kids who end up going missing after going to this mental asylum. And then we get like I love that in the beginning of this movie, and then throughout the rest of it, we get this like little I can't remember the name of their group. It was like what terror some
Terror. Oh gosh,
because
I was
like the
just
banner
looking
would
at
keep
it too.
popping up throughout the movie.
Oh yeah, because
I
it was
just watched
technically a
it this
live
morning.
stream, so they
Yeah,
would use that to like scene transition. Terror Squad,
yeah,
Horror Terror Squad, something like that.
Horror Squad,
Something
Terror Squad,
goofy.
somewhere around there. Yeah, something kind of cheesy. Throughout, it felt kind of like the people who made this movie. I don't know who made it. I don't know who the director is. I don't know much about this crew because it is a Korean movie. And it felt kind of like someone has an idea of what live streaming is, but doesn't
Yeah,
fully. So they have like an inkling of an idea of like how all that stuff works, but they don't fully know.
I love seeing movies that like are trying to do live stream things, but they're not quite exactly sure what like Twitch or Kick is. So they kind of
Yeah.
like make up their own website.
Yeah, and it
It's
looked
just
like
like
a
a random streaming platform.
yeah, it looked like a YouTube clone, but I couldn't really like it didn't it
Looked a
kind of
lot
looked
like
like
a YouTube
YouTube,
clone. It had
but
like that
yeah.
2003 like YouTube banners on the sides of the thing and everything. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very funny.
I was like, this is very strange, but I kind of like it. Yeah, so this group of like, what is it, 8? I counted 6.
I think there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
There's 6 people that go in, and there's the one guy who's back at base camp.
Oh yeah,
So I
that
believe there's 7.
I hated that guy. I'm just gonna go
He
ahead
was
and
the
say
worst.
he was the worst of them all. But yeah, they all go after hearing about these stories to this place. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna break in. Their whole goal for the entire duration of this visit at the asylum is that they had heard that someone who got, I think it was 200,000 views on a or 250,000 views on a video netted him about like
K
100,000.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a lot of money. So they were hoping that if they had gotten double that, they would get double the amount of money for the live stream. And so they're like, okay, so we're gonna try and get that. And they figured that going to an asylum and doing the first like first live stream ghost haunt in Korea would have been the way to do it because apparently no one had done it before. I feel like we've seen this a couple times at least now. I know this
Yeah.
movie was done, I think in 2018 is when this was
I
released.
think so. I believe so. Somewhere around there.
So it is plausible that, no one, at least in the States or otherwise, had done something to that grandiose scale. At least as far as
I
like ghost
know
hunting live.
I know that specifically the Taps team on Ghost Hunters has done it a couple of times,
Yeah.
but they have done it through like their own like website and stuff like that, where you would like watch the show live, but you could also watch the cameras on their website live while they were filming the show live.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I didn't know if like Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures had done something like that. It seems
I
like
don't believe
something that
Ghost
Ghost
Adventures
Adventures has
has.
done it. Yeah. You would think that, Zach would want to do something like that, but I
I
guess
think that
they
Zach
haven't.
Baggins has got too big of a head to do that.
That's fair. Um but yeah, they all come together. It was so funny to me in the beginning, whenever they were all introducing themselves, and then you've got this one woman who just goes, "My name is Charlotte Moon," and I'm like,
My
okay,
name is Charlotte Moon.
you you've got all of these like Korean names, like traditional Korean names, and then it's Charlotte Moon, and they do that a couple of times, and they put her in the
Apparently,
middle, and it's so
she
funny.
was half Korean, I think is what she said, that her dad was from America or something like that, because she spoke English very well.
Yeah, yeah, very well. And I looked her up like later as far as like who she is as an actress. She does all like Korean stuff. Like I haven't seen her do any
Wow. So she's
like
just
English
real
stuff.
good at English.
Yeah, apparently. I
That's
didn't see
awesome.
a single like English like role. I think it's all South Korean roles. But yeah, like they all get together. They all introduce themselves, and it feels very YouTubey in the beginning.
Yeah,
It feels
insanely.
the whole like first quarter of the movie kind of feels like a YouTube video. Feels like we're watching some sort of YouTube video.
Because they go to like a water park right
Yeah,
at the
that was
beginning of the movie.
I, that was the weirdest thing for me because I was looking at
It
my phone for a
really
second,
it just
and then I look up and it's like water. We should go to a water park, and I was like, did I accidentally change the movie? Like what
it
happened?
did make it feel a lot more like a YouTube video. Like
Yeah,
this
it was
was a
really
video
weird.
filmed by YouTuber. It did set a vibe, and I think they kept that vibe pretty well.
Yeah, and if that's the vibe they're going for, they did a very good job of that because it maintained its like feeling throughout the
It
entire
reminds me
movie.
of those right after Vine died. There was a lot
Hmm.
of Viners that went over to YouTube and just took all their Vine money and started doing vlogs, like going across the world and like randomly
Yes.
experiencing things. It reminded me of all of that, like that
Yeah.
big wave of vloggers right after Vine.
So that's a hell of a parallel. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's pretty much what the feeling was. At first, it took me a minute to get used to, because I was like, okay, I didn't expect this to be. I went into this very blind. I didn't know what this was at all.
Fair.
I had no idea what to expect. You just said, hey, let's watch this, and I was like, okay, and we went into it. I did not expect that YouTube feeling, but I felt like it fit perfectly for what this movie became. And
I
because
agree.
it it set the tone for what you would later see as like a Ghost Adventures episode,
Yes.
but a homegrown Ghost Adventures episode or an independent Ghost Adventures episode. This entire movie feels like a definite indie movie. I think it might have been. I don't know anything about the production companies in Korea. I didn't really
This was an
do.
indie movie. The quality of it was quite high.
Yeah, it was. It felt like they had like Sony FX3s, like these really like high quality cinema cameras, but the writing and the acting and everything in the beginning felt very YouTubey. And then once we started to get into the crux of like the actually showing up to the asylum, going through all these things, it kind of changed in tone a little bit. And
Oh,
I
very much.
I enjoyed that because I was like, oh, it's a little bit of a switch up.
So we started like viewing main guy who's back at Nerve Camp as like this antagonist. And I liked that a lot. I liked making him the bad guy, and
Kind of was.
he it definitely was. It was cool to see him as the bad guy and being like, "Oh, this is a horror movie where I'm rooting for like almost the entire cast except for this one person."
He was a he was a bitch. Like
He was a dickhead. Like he was
he
so
was.
mean.
It was mean, but it was also like you're asking everybody to go do all this shit while you're sitting in the comfort of your little fucking
Mhm.
tent. Like, I hate like, I do not like you. I hope for something to happen to you, and I just don't know what that is yet.
Like it kept like bait switching us because things would go on in his little tent, but nothing would ever happen.
The amount Okay, so
Yeah, we'll
I've
get
said
into
this
it more.
already. No, I've said that already in that I don't necessarily like jump scare paranormal movies like this. So every time there is an inkling for by the way, I watched this with the lights on. I don't give a fuck. You can say whatever you want. I did. Uh,
Fair enough.
every time that there was like that little, because usually there's like these little cues that you get
Hmm.
for a jump scare.
There's a
This movie
setup
was
phase.
yeah, this movie was oddly quiet. In
Very quiet. It was so quiet. I like kept turning up my volume, being like, "Am I missing something?"
Well, I thought that they just forgot the music, and I was like, oh no, this is intentional because
So
you would
I,
expect
ex-
music.
you would expect music, but it only played music when he would be like, "Okay, the scene is starting. Music is on," and then the music would start playing like we were watching the live stream.
Right. And I think that's really cool. I will get into my qualms with the live stream here in a minute. But um I I kept like looking for and listening for that cue. And I never got it. And that's what freaked me out the most. Cause I'm like, okay, I can at least prepare myself for a paranormal movie because now I know I'm watching a paranormal movie. And I can cue myself for whenever the jump scares are coming. And the music never came. And I was like, oh no, here goes my anxiety. Look, this is great. I was hoping that I would get some sort of cue, and I never got it. So every time anything happened, even slightly, a slight camera change, a slight rustle in the wind, a slight whatever, I was like,
Are we doing this?
it baited me so many fucking times.
Even with, like, the ones that you knew were baits, or sorry, even the ones that were like, oh, you're like, "Oh, this is a bait," wouldn't lead to a jump scare half the
Yeah,
time. They
the
would just
typical
put you
setup.
on edge for no reason.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
so as soon as soon as you actually got the typical lead up to a jump scare, like the very formulaic lead up to a jump scare, it never came. And you're like,
No,
"Oh."
exactly.
I'm like, "Oh,
Specifically,
okay."
like, and it happened a lot in while he was still in the tent.
Yeah.
Is like something would happen in the background, you'd be like, "Oh, okay, something's gonna," and he would, like, move the camera all around like they do in, like, found footage movies, and you're like, "Oh, there's a person in the corner now." And there was never a person in the corner. He
No,
just
and
kept
the one that kinda pissed me off the most that it didn't happen was the silhouette on the side of the wall that was like, "Oh, yeah,
Oh,
you'll see, like, the baked in silhouette on the side of the wall
in the
from, like, a"
bathroom?
in the
Yeah.
bathroom. Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, because there's a silhouette there that's, like, painted there and they know it's there and they're getting closer to it, I'm expecting
Something's gonna happen.
something something's gonna happen." You're gonna see, like, weird wall movement, and someone's gonna get grabbed from inside the wall, but not inside the wall, or that, like, they're gonna get pushed up against the wall or whatever. And it never happened. And I'm like,
Yeah, I was
"Okay."
really surprised that they didn't use that for, like, any horror devices at all, it just kinda was
At all.
there.
Yeah. It
It
was
was
just
very
there
surprising.
to, like, plant the seed, but never water the flower, and it felt really strange, and I didn't like that. But I think that's what they were going for. There was obvious
Mhm.
intent. Like, I as someone who is a horror novice in the paranormal side, I could easily see as, like, how someone else who sees a lot of other paranormal movies could see that as a misstep. But I also saw that as intentional because they're trying to eventually lead up to what was all the just overabundance of fucking jump scares at the end.
Yeah. Oh my god, I know. But it's like, even the jump scares that were happening, I was like, "I'm not mad about any of these. They're not coming
No.
out of nowhere. I don't feel like they're too loud or anything. These are, like, just legitimately creepy and scary."
Yeah, it was just freaky. And I was like, "Okay, so this one I can kinda do." But there were just so many little instances that angered me because I was just waiting for it because I was holding something and like, "Okay, I'll have that release," and then it was just not there. So the pent up just anxiety was just
Yeah.
hiding
I
in my mind.
love I love a horror movie that edges you for no reason. It's so good.
Absolutely, absolutely not. And it was so frustrating. It in the beginning of the movie, the acting is kind of strange, so I didn't know, like, how they would react to it. Felt very, like,
Mhm.
cookie cutter, like, YouTube-y-esque acting, right? That we're trying to be influencers kinda deal. So I
Right.
didn't know I kinda felt like that whenever they were gonna get into the asylum, that the acting of being scared, of being afraid, of being in this environment would have been rather hokey, and they would have played it up kind of like that. But I was pleasantly
Mhm.
surprised in the way that they behaved as soon as they got into the asylum and things started to kinda change around them.
Yeah, they got very serious very fast.
And I was like, "Okay." That's actually what got me into the movie more was their realistic acting as opposed to what they had in the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, I'm starting to like this. I don't necessarily like this genre, but I'm really starting to like this movie because it feels real." Which is also terrifying because it feels real. What did you think about the acting overall? Like, did you feel that anyone was kind of dragging them down? Anything like that?
I was relatively impressed by pretty much everybody. The only person who I didn't really see anything from was the nurse girl, and it's just because they didn't use her a lot. She just really wasn't in that movie much.
No, she was
Um,
surprising.
yeah, her and, the guy that was with her the whole time, those 2 really after the beginning of the movie, you don't see them again for, like, a good 40 minutes.
Yeah, it was very strange. I thought that it was going to at least with like the camera setups and everything that it was going to like kind of pan Like, to each one, like, as because the whole movie, pretty much the whole movie, is the perspective of their faces because they've got like a rig that they have on their
Mhm.
chests. You see their faces, up close faces, and then the POV like on each rig. So they kind of pan around to each person and show like the reactions up close and personal, almost through their fucking nostrils. But
Yeah.
you can see their up close reactions to everything that's going on. So I figured that they would kind of do it evenly to show like everyone's reaction to the experience that they're all having. But it was mostly focused on like three people. It was Charlotte, it was girl whose name is escaping me, who ended up like going crazy at the end,
Yeah.
and that one guy in
She
the
had the hat.
yeah, she the chick with the hat, and then the guy with the was it backwards hat? I think he had a hat on as well. He ended up being shown a lot too.
Yeah, it really followed. And then like the main two guys who were in contact with Homie at base camp.
Yeah, that fucking weasel. Um, what did you? Okay, so let's talk about him, the guy in the base camp. Like overall, what did you think of his character and his character development?
Well, I don't think he had any character development,
True.
but I think that he had his role and he really stuck with it the entire time. I didn't feel like his mask slipped at all. It was really just like he was shitty from the beginning, and it's just the situation made him more shitty.
Yeah, he had this like look and feel as if he was this guy just lauding over the entire group because he's like, I'm the one in
Yes.
charge. They're all calling him captain, which really felt strange. I don't know if that's just like I doubt that's something that happens in Korea that they talk about like this one guy that you're looking for guidance is like they all call him captain or whatever. But it just felt really strange that throughout the entire fucking movie they didn't say his name. Like whenever shit got real, they never said his name. They just kept saying captain, 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 captain. And I'm like, dude, like, is he
Yeah.
not a human being
Even
too? Like,
even when they were like talking about him to each other, they would be like, "Oh, well, Captain said this and that, and the captain wants us to do this."
but like,
They
dude
It
didn't
was
have
weird.
anything like going for
No.
him. One, he didn't have anything going for him. Two, he didn't know what the fuck to do. He was so obsessed with the numbers and the possibility of how much money it was going to net him that he didn't give a shit. And
Yeah.
that's why I was hoping that at least something would happen and he would be ripped away from base camp entirely. And
Yeah,
then
I really
like
thought that he was going to get offed super early,
I did
and
too.
there was gonna be like an imposter doing his voice to the people.
Yeah. I thought that something was gonna happen within base camp and they were just gonna have no communication whatsoever. And I was so confused as to why nothing happened to him. Because you've got this
Yeah.
guy who's tucked himself away and then just being a dick to everyone else, watching them all go through shit, and then playing it off as if nothing is happening. And then nothing happens to him.
I think it's because they wanted to build him up to be like a really satisfying end where something finally happens to him and you're like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. It
That's
just
that seemed to, because like, yeah, nothing was happening to him, and he was sitting there being like, "We go back in there. Everybody,
yeah.
I'm fine. You're fine. Go back in there."
He was so demanding. And I hated it. I hated
Yeah, it
every minute
was
of it.
strange.
I did find it kind of cool that whenever they set up the base camp, it looked like something that you would see out of like Ghost Adventures
Oh,
or
yeah.
Ghost Hunters. Like it looked very like a professional setting, which was so
Mm,
funny because not much was being streamed. Like if you look at the screens and like what they were showing on the live stream, like nothing was really being shown from that base camp. It was just him
mhm.
behind the computer looking at the numbers as they're all rolling in. He wasn't reading anything off like a chat or anything like that. He was kind of controlling the cameras and everything and what cuts to what, but the base camp was never really shown in the
Yeah.
live stream from what I saw. One of the qualms I did have with the live stream was that they had it up, the numbers were coming in, they made it seem like it had already started. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, so we're gonna go live in like 15 minutes." And I was like,
So technically, there's like, I mean, on like Twitch and stuff like that, there's like a countdown you can do before you go live, and people can like join before that. But I don't know if that's what they were going for.
Right. I've streamed several times, right?
Mhm.
I had like setups ready for like starting soon or whatever. Nothing there. Nothing there. So it looked like it was already live.
Mm.
So that's the
It
thing
did
that
look like he was pretty much live already.
it looked like they were already live. So I was like, wait, so like all of these people, like they're just coming in waiting, or are they actually watching you guys set up? Because it looked like they were already live whenever they started to go out of the base camp and then walking up to the asylum.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's really weird. But I guess it was just like, to me, I chalked that up to okay, they don't necessarily know everything that's going on in the streaming world. They're just kind of using this as a vehicle to tell a story, which is fine. But it kind of took me out of it for a second. And then once they all started to do their thing and like really turn on this persona of like, oh yeah, we're all, these people that we're all influencers that go and do this thing. I was like, okay, I'm back in it. And it it felt like a typical live stream in the beginning. And I was like, hell yeah. And then they started setting everything up, setting all the cameras up. And I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. And then we went for a while, for a long while, and didn't get anything. And then weird things started to happen. He noticed it in the base camp, didn't do anything about it, but you could see everyone start to go crazy. And I really liked how crazy everyone went.
They went with 0 to 100 so
Real
fast.
fast. Who did you like the most out of this movie?
I think that my favorite character was Ball Cap Hat Girl. I liked her a lot
Yeah.
because she was really just kind of she was there for the vibes that
Yeah,
initially.
did they say that she was already an influencer? Because I don't think she
Yes,
was. She
she
was?
or she was. I think so, or at least she was like somebody else who was at least had done filming at some point because she brought a camera with her.
Gotcha. Yeah, they all had, by the way, GoPro sessions. The the thing that stuck out with me with that, and that was so funny for me with that, was it felt like that was the biggest product placement they could do in order to get this movie funded. Was like, hey, look, we have GoPro sessions. I'm like, that
What
was
was that?
so funny.
What was the camera that they were using for those shots when they'd like go in the room? They had like this big
Don't
wide angle
know.
camera
It was a massive angle for like the
because it was
entire room.
gigantic.
And I was like, that's crazy. I didn't see any like massive cameras that they had. I didn't see like, regular film cameras. I just saw what seemed to be DSLRs and stuff and GoPros. I didn't see anything crazy. So I don't know what cameras they had. I know they didn't like, there was no storyline saying that they tapped into the security camera, the
Oh,
old security
right.
cameras of the place. Even though I think the place closed in the 80s, so I doubt that they would have had anything like that
Yeah, it was
sophisticated
old.
in there, anyways. So yeah, I don't know how they set that up. It was just kind of like on the viewer to believe that it was already all done and set up and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
which was kind of like hokey, but it was also like, all right, whatever. Like we're getting along with the
They
story, so
also did a thing early on where they established that the cameras they had set up were follow cameras, and the cameras would follow movement, and they never did anything with them that followed movement.
at all, at all, and
I
drove me
was
nuts.
really expecting it, and I wanted
It
it.
it drove me nuts because I was looking for and I was waiting for that like very Ghost Adventures style of like, okay, did you see what we caught on
Mhm.
the motion camera? Did you see what we caught on the they I don't even think they pulled out the fucking EMF detector.
They did it once at the beginning of the movie where they were when he was reviewing the footage of those 2 guys that go missing, where he,
Yeah.
like, pauses it and zooms in on, like, this, like, ghostly face, and then they barely do that again.
Yeah, so we saw the EMF detector like once and that was it.
Yeah, right at the end of the movie.
Which is funny because they really played into that big time. They
They talked
spent
about it for a
time.
while.
Yeah, for like 2 minutes, they spent time, like, actually explaining what an EMF detector is, what it's used for, why it's there, and what they plan on using it for, and, like, nothing happened with it, really. There were so many aspects of the ghost hunting, ghosted like, paranormal investigation that they could have played into that they just didn't. which is kind of
Yeah.
frustrating. But it is what it is. I was hoping that they'd play more into that since that's kind of the whole thing that they were working off of was, oh yeah, they are paranormal investigators and this is what they do.
Yeah. One of the things I was hoping they were gonna do in another movie in this genre as well, Hell House did this a lot where it's especially earlier in the movie when something spooky would happen, there would be like a little playback, and it would be like, "Hey, look at this thing," like it was a ghost show almost, and I really wanted them to do that, and they did it a couple of times.
Yeah.
There's one scene in general that I wanna talk about at one point where actually, I'll just bring it up now.
Yeah,
There's
go
one
for it. Go
scene
for it.
in general where the guy at base camp is going back and reviewing a couple of things because he does, him and the other two guys have set up a good bit of the stuff that's supposed to happen, and they have faked most of what's happened in the first part of the movie. Right when he's looking back through the footage, he comes to a shot where he sees 6 people in frame, and he goes, "Wait, who filmed this?" And then that's right when the power in the tent cuts off, and I loved that scene a lot. I thought that that was really cool, and I wanted more of that. I wanted more of him realizing that things were going back. I wanted him to be like, "Oh, shit's going down," and then go in there himself to help, but no, he was just like, keep going down."
I thought that the power going out was going to be the set off for him
Oh, yeah,
to
I thought
be
that was
like,
curtains for him, bro. I thought he was done.
I thought that was it, and I was waiting for a loud ass fucking noise and waiting for him to scream, and that was it for him. And then the rest of them were left off to their own devices. I mean, they were anyways, pretty much. But
Yeah.
I figured that would just be done, and it didn't happen. And I was like, okay, I'm like another one of those. Great. And I I will say of the scares that I did like, there were some very interesting ones. Some that like, they just very faintly intercutted that face with the fucking black eyes, which freaked me the fuck out a couple
Oh,
times.
you're talking about when yeah.
That was freaky because I was like,
I
I
liked
had go ahead.
oh, yeah, sorry. No, no, you continue on that.
I was about to say I had saw like a still before I watched the movie because I was looking at images for like saving for whenever I upload everything. And I had seen that face, and that was the only thing that I had seen. So I was like, "Oh great, we're gonna have a fucking jump scare like that." I didn't know where it was gonna come in the movie, but I was like, "Oh great, this is where this is gonna come eventually." And it was so innocuous that it really caught me off guard because it didn't
Yeah.
have the typical like pump fake that they do. And I was just like, "Oh." That was, like, one of the first times that it, like, really got me, and I was like, "God damn it." Like, you get me on something really dumb.
I liked that they were finally playing around with the GoPro set they had, and it switches to the GoPro that's right in her face, and you have to look at her all messed up and ghostly looking while she's whispering and shit. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
I thought that was really cool. I was like, "Okay, like, we're getting somewhere." And then it was an overabundance of all that stuff all mashed into, like, what, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Like,
The last part of the movie really just
just
oh,
hammered it home. What were some of your favorite scenes from the movie in general outside of the tent electricity cutting?
yeah, yeah, that scene's top tier. I really like the scene where Charlotte is trapped in room 402. It's right when she makes it back to the tent. She opens the tent, and then she realizes she's back inside the asylum,
Yeah,
and she starts moving her flashlight around, and she just first she sees her friend, she looks away, she looks back, and then there's that naked guy standing there.
that guy freaked me the fuck out.
What I like about this scene is she keeps looking away from him and looking back, and he doesn't move. And she does it like 7 times, and I'm like, one of these times
I'm
he's
like,
either not gonna be there or like something's gonna happen. And
yeah,
he just and the first time he moves, all he's doing is staying in like full line with her. He's not moving towards her, he's just staying parallel to her the entire time she's trying to move around the room.
I was
I
like,
love that a lot.
I was
That
like,
was
chick,
scary.
leave. I'm like, fucking get out. You see that, and you're just still there.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? My
That
ass
was
would have been out so fast.
dude.
I would have left so quick. I've been like, I did not expect anyone to be here. I did not expect any sort of vagrant to be here or see any sort of fucking like form like that. And you see a naked dude and you're not
Yeah.
leaving. He was
He
creepy as
was
fuck.
yeah, he was spooky looking, bro.
I feel like they spent a good chunk of the budget on like the special effects of this movie because the special effects of like the actual like the grittiness of all the gore and the shit that was in the movie was great.
Oh yeah.
Like the naked guy was insane. He looked freaky. He like one of the first times that I was like really creeped out by the movie. As far as like what I see and actually see in front of me. Um, I think they did a really good job with the makeup for whenever what's his name stuck his arm in the door to hopefully unlock it from the other
Mhm.
side, and he was pulled in, and they pull his arm out, and he's like all scratched up. I'm like, oh, they did a really good job of that.
I think that scene might be the best scene in the movie.
Yeah,
When Ballcap Girl sticks her arm in there, nothing happens for a second, and then she pulls it out, she's scratched up. They look back and that door starts opening slowly. That
I'm
was
like, nope.
awesome.
I
And then there
immediately
wasn't
went,
anything in there. That
yeah.
was amazing.
I
I was
was,
so into that.
I was like, no, dude, no. I'm like, I'm not having it. I'm like, it freaked me out so much. It was really cool, but it freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah, that was such a well, like, just done scene. That was nutty. Ugh.
Thi this movie really subverted my expectations of what it was whenever I saw it was a Korean horror film, and then what it
Mhm.
was from the very beginning. I think that's what this movie does really well, is it really subverts your expectations, not in a typical hokey horror way, but in a, "This is the type of movie you're gonna get for the whole movie," and then get something completely different by the end.
It does what I like that horror movies of its type do, is it gets you in a comfortable place, and then it, at some point, just rips you out of there, and it's like, "We're here now. Be okay
Yeah,
with that."
yeah, and it hits all at the end. So, like, you're you have this ball of anxiety leading up to the end of the movie, and but you keep getting, like, teased so much that you're like, "Okay, whatever, dude. Like, this is what you're gonna do," and then it just bam, and you're like, "Whoa." You're like, "Okay, I can't trust anything anymore. I can't trust
Right
anything."
towards right towards the end too is, like, this really good scene. It's when, Nurse Girl, like, incompetent guy and the guy who just woke up from being knocked out by the poltergeist
Yeah,
wake up, and they're like, "Oh, there's water underneath us." And when the guy who, like, had been hit in the head and he has, like, blood on his face, looks around and there's, like, these hands starting to go over people's faces, and every time he looks, they go away, but there's no one behind them. I was like, "That's so sick."
it was freaky as fuck, and I
It
was
was
like, "You know what?
awesome.
Kudos. I liked how you did that because it didn't like it didn't feel weird, it didn't look weird. It looked like it looked like an actual fucking poltergeist was,
Mhm.
like, doing that, and it didn't
It
look
it it made me think
strange.
of Phasmophobia.
I haven't I haven't played nor seen Phasmophobia.
The death animation of Phasmophobia is just hands coming around your face.
That's creepy as fuck.
It's very scary, and they, like, snap your neck. It's very loud.
Nope. I'm not playing Phasmophobia, no sir.
I love
Um,
those.
but it was like everything that was in this movie was really well done near the end.
Yes.
I feel like they not only intentionally did the YouTubey hokey stuff in the beginning, not only for the tone of the movie, but also for the sake of the budget to be able to use the rest of the budget on all of the good shit that was at the end.
I feel like they filmed the last 45 minutes, maybe 40 minutes of that movie first,
Yeah,
and then went, "Oh, this actually needs to be a bit longer,"
yeah.
and then went into the, like, YouTuber stuff and, like, having this big setup phase.
That would make a lot of sense because it yeah, that would make a lot of sense. It would make sense if they filmed everything from the setup of the base camp onwards first and then came back and did everything and then just obviously edited it the way that they needed to.
Edited it.
Edited it the way that they needed to. That would make so much sense.
It does feel slightly disjointed up
It
until we
does.
reach, like,
It fucking does.
right in the middle of the movie, and then you're like, "Oh, we're good now. Everything makes sense."
It's such a weird tonal shift, but it's what I like most about the movie. I
Yeah,
typically don't
I
like
like
so
that too.
I typically I'm like, if I see something hokey for, like, 30 minutes of the beginning of a movie, I'm like, "Oh, great. Like, this is what I'm gonna get for the entire movie." So I was like, "Okay, so this is the tone for the entire movie. I might be okay. I might not be a ball of anxiety by the time this is over." And then I got something completely different. And I was like, "You know what? I like it." I'm
I'm glad
not
that you like.
I was surprised. I was thoroughly surprised because I didn't think I was going to. And I was like, You know what? I might be okay watching some other paranormal movies. I may not, but it wasn't too bad. We'll see how my nightmares go tonight. But
Fair enough.
if I see any naked dudes in my nightmares, I'm running, getting
Yeah,
up and leaving."
he was stupidly creepy.
And he was like, the way that he stood there and just
Oh,
stood
yeah.
there was like creepy as fuck, but also really well done. Like, I don't know if it was like, I don't know what it
It
was,
was
but it
just
was
like
like very
he
Doug Jonesy.
he had this stance of he could move at any point,
Yeah,
and you're just sitting there waiting for him to move, but he's not moving.
the parallel I made at the time was, you've seen Doctor Who, right? I'm assuming you have.
I've seen a bit of Doctor Who.
Very, very Weeping Angels-esque.
Yes, because you're like, "Oh, when she looks away, he's gonna move." And then
And
she
it
looks back
did
and he hasn't moved, and you're like, "What are we
I was
talking about?"
I was waiting for the Weeping Angels type,
Mhm.
situation, and he just didn't come. And it's another one of those fucking situations where it's like you're waiting for the typical, and it doesn't give you the typical, and you're like, "Fuck," it's frustrating. But, after talking about it and, like, looking at it, oh, after being removed from it, like, "Oh, okay." Like, 1, it makes sense. 2, that's what makes it good. 3, that's what makes me think that other people who watch, movies like this would enjoy this, far more than what they would expect to. Because I don't watch movies like this, and I enjoyed it far more than I expected to.
Yeah, it subverted my expectations a bit. I expected a normal, kinda sloppy, found footage movie, but, no, I was like, "This is it's pretty decent."
Yeah.
Surprising.
What would you compare this to other movies that you've seen in that genre? Because 'Cause I've only seen, like,
It
Apollo 18, like, was the only
reminds me
one
a
that I
lot of As Above, So Below in the way
yeah.
that it's paced, because As Above, So Below starts out pretty slow, and then towards the end of that movie, just everything happens.
Yeah.
So very similar to that. As Above, So Below is great. It's very reminiscent of the, like, what is it, like, the second Hell House movie? Where there's, like, this news crew who are coming in after the first one's already happened, and it's
Okay.
also found footage, but, like, in a different way. It's less of a documentary like the first one was, and more of these people are going there specifically to document this and not just looking at an overview of something that's already happened.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of the first Grave Encounters in it for sure. That movie was very instrumental for the found footage genre in the way that it's filmed.
Mm.
It's very similarly, it's about a asylum that these people go into trying to make a video.
By the way, that asylum itself, like, as a entity, as a building, was fucking creepy as hell too.
Yeah, and
It
it
was
was much
really well
smaller
done.
than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
When they
At
drove
least on
up
the
to it, I was like,
outside.
It's small." Yeah. It's like
On the outside, it looks small as hell, but whenever you get on the inside, now granted, I know that they said that there was a basement, so, like, I knew that there was
Mhm.
stuff underground, so maybe, that's why it was bigger on the
True.
inside. So, I'm guessing that they just, chose a building, whatever, filmed on the outside, and then had their own, like, set somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's kinda what it felt like, 'cause it didn't feel like they actually went to a legit building, but the thing is, like, everything that they had as far as production design goes and the setup for everything felt immaculate. It
Yeah,
felt
very
like
good.
you were in a fucking, rundown asylum, which I was like, "Okay, we're going somewhere there," but that's, like, where a lot of the anxiety really came from, was, like, that typical feeling that you get from these types of videos that you would see, on YouTube about people going to these places, they did it so
Yeah,
well that it made me sit in that anxiety just off rip, being like, okay, we're actually in like a fucking asylum.
it was filmed very reminiscent to those videos where it's like, "Oh, I'm a nighttime security guard. Look at this crazy shit I saw."
Very much so. But that's why
I
I liked it.
oh, yeah, it very much gets you in a pit of like, "Oh, that could be me."
Yeah, very quickly. And I would not be able to do anything.
No, I'd be I would without any, like, it wouldn't work. I'm throwing hands, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna work, but I'm attempting to throw hands immediately.
Is there anything about this movie that you didn't like? That like really
I
like this?
I didn't super enjoy the pacing.
Yeah.
I would have liked a bit more of the scary stuff to happen earlier
Yeah.
and be a bit more subtle. I didn't like also when it was trying to be subtle, the movie seems to think the person that's watching it's stupid
Yeah. Yeah.
in the fact like with the doll. So they find that doll, right? It's in the cabinet.
That drove me
They go
nuts.
they go back to that room. The first time they enter that room, he shines the light on the cabinet, the doll's not there. And I go, "Oh shit, that doll's not in the cabinet."
Yeah.
And then 5 seconds later, homegirl goes, "The doll's not in the cabinet." And I was like, "Motherfucker,
It's like, well,
you
no
could have just
shit.
let me have it."
Yeah.
And and then they pick up the doll and go, "This guy in the photo was holding that doll, the photo that we've already seen like 5 times, and we would have known he was holding a doll."
Yeah. Like that part I did not like at all. I was like, okay, this is just that that was one of the first times that we had gotten to the the juicy part of the movie. Like we had already surpassed all the hokey shit in the beginning. So I was like, okay, so like we're gonna have like good writing for the rest of the movie. And then it was just like we get this little bit. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like, yeah, I
It
get it.
felt out of
They're
place
filming
where it was.
yeah, they're filming like a YouTube video, ghost YouTube video thing, so of course they're gonna be like over-explanatory, but like, I don't I didn't like it.
Yeah,
I
but there were
specifically did not like it.
yeah, that part I like there were other parts that weren't like that. You know, in that little sequence or in that, from the
Mhm.
base camp on, like that were not like that. So whenever it was like thrown in there and like shoehorned in there, I was just like, "Eh, you could have done a little bit better than that, I guess. I don't know." But it
Yeah, I
didn't
would've
take away from the movie as a whole.
no, no, but I would've liked a lot more of that, Haunting of Hill House type subtlety in the beginning of the movie
Yeah.
before everything kinda went crazy.
Yeah. Cuz there was a bit of subtlety, but like not as much enough to be able to subvert my expectations, which is why I I liked it. But yeah,
I didn't even think about it when you initially see that shot with all 6 of them in frame,
I didn't either.
until he was looking back at it and went, "Who filmed this? That's
I
6 people." And I
I
was
didn't think
like,
about it either.
"Oh, shit."
It didn't even register in my mind because he was so adamant that nothing was going on
Yeah,
that I was just like, "Oh, okay. So this is just whatever." And then whenever he said that, I was like, "Oh, like if he's seeing it, then something must be up because he's
it's
been he's been so adamant that there's nothing going on here." Which is funny because from my understanding, it was his decision to go there. So, like,
yeah,
him not
it's
playing
interpretation.
into it the whole time or, like, playing it up and, like, at least for the sake of the broadcast, for the sake of, like, "Hey, we're trying to get people in here so we can hit this number that we're trying to hit." The fact that he played it down more than played it up was really strange, but I don't know, that's just me. I don't know if that's, like, something that you picked up on, but
Yeah, it was a little weird that he was denying it so hard, and I think I get why. It's because he wanted them to stay in
well,
there
yeah,
so that he
yeah,
could get them up,
yeah.
but, like, at the same time, if it's real, then that's even better views. So, like, I don't know why he wouldn't have just leaned into it.
Yeah, especially if, like, he can actually be heard. 'Cause I'm guessing that his audio could be heard from Basecamp at least in the live stream. Obviously, we don't get, like, a shot of somebody watching the live stream and, like, the audio coming through, which is fine, we don't need
Y
that. But from my understanding, as a viewer, I thought, "Oh, yeah, we're getting his audio of him talking to everybody else in the live stream." So, my thought would be, play it up at least a little bit, ham it up a little bit to kind of sell it. But he never really did that till the end.
With my in my opinion, I think we could have done without the live stream in that movie.
Yeah,
I think we could have just been, he's at Nerve Camp the whole time, and instead of using the wanting to have the views and stuff like that as a pushing force behind his actions, it could be more instead of they broke in, maybe he spent a lot of money to rent out this specific amount of time. And he's
yeah,
like, well, no, I spent this money, you're staying there.
yeah.
I
Because
think that could have been more convictive than just wanting views.
yeah, and if they even framed it in the beginning, because you could have kept the framing of we could have gotten the views to make this X amount of money. You can be like, oh well, I spent this much money on the opportunity for us to go do this, so I've at least got to make my money back. And still have that without having the live stream, without having all these things, and make it just a YouTube video that nets you this much money after AdSense and all this fun stuff. That probably would have worked a little bit better.
And like him complaining about being like, we need this video to be long. I need to be able to put as many ads on this as I can so I can make my money back. You need to get in there and get me more footage.
Yeah, and in 2017, 2018, that was mid-rolls and stuff were already a thing, so everyone already knew. Like, so they could have easily done that. Again, I think this just kind of plays into whoever was doing the research for this movie, producing this movie. They don't necessarily know that side of
Yeah.
of the business of whatever, because even 500,000 or a million views wouldn't net you $500,000 on a live stream at all. Like you wouldn't
No,
be
that's just not
close.
how that works.
Even in Korean money, you wouldn't be anywhere near that. So they could have easily done a little bit more research on like being like, hey, we could at least do this as a long form video, as like a documentary, which would actually net them more money than a live stream, which is strange. But anyways, yeah, I think we could have easily done without the live stream, especially the cutting to the like screen of the 4 cameras, of the 5 cameras. We could have
Yeah, with
easily
the
had
numbers and like
yeah, that was dumb. Like
we could have just had those screens and had being like, oh, we cut to the big camera that like shows Nerve Camp with the screens in the shot, right?
right.
He's doing something. He might not be at the thing, but you can see in the background something's happening on those screens while he's not looking.
Yeah, like subtly. Like,
Yeah.
the over the shoulder type camera or whatever
Mhm.
doing that. Yeah. That would have been a little bit better. But, you know, that just comes down to directing and production, I guess. But
Yeah. 2020 vision,
um
whatnot.
yeah, right.
2020 vision. What the fuck am I talking about? That's not
Hind
what I've been just.
yeah.
Right. It's true.
Hindsight is 2020. I think is what you're trying to get at.
2020 vision. Jesus Christ.
It's been a long day, I'm guessing.
It's been such a long day. Oh no.
I get what you mean. I get where you're getting
Yeah.
at. It's
Thank
all
you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
Anyways.
that could have easily been something that was done. That again, hindsight is 2020, as you were saying. No one, we can't really make that decision now. But it would have been cool if they did something like that because it would have made a little bit more sense.
What about you? What stood out to you, or what'd you not super like?
I mean, as a kid with a ball of anxiety, I didn't like the whole I didn't like the whole setup no release, but I also did like, after being a couple hours removed, because like I said, I did watch this in the morning. So after like sitting on it for a little while, I liked it. But during the duration of the movie, I was not too keen on the setup and no delivery side of that. There were some things that some of the writing was a little hokey, but I chalked it up to independent movie. I kind of just did away with that mindset because I was like, oh, it's fine because it's an independent movie, so I'm not really going to think about it too much. I surprisingly liked it more than I disliked it,
Heck
which is very surprising for someone like me who doesn't watch paranormal movies like this. Like I'll watch The Substance, I'll watch things like that. I'll watch, Alien.
Oh, The Substance was good.
I love The Substance. I love the Alien franchise. But paranormal shit? No, thank you. I'm good.
Koreans have this like certain way that they do horror, and I'm saying this after seeing a few different Korean horror films. Now they do have this like certain existential dread about the way that they write their horror movies. And I've seen it in almost every single one of them that I've seen so far. There's this like feeling of like, oh, this is hopeless, and this is just how things are, or that you messed up and now you got to deal with those consequences, and those consequences are fucking bad.
When they're bad, they are really bad.
When you look through the movie, every single one of them does something that the asylum considers, I guess, a sin that they have to pay for. Homegirl puts her arm in the thing and gets scratched, so she gets marked. Charlotte tags her name on the wall. The nurse is the one who does the ritual. The camera guy is the gets touches that water that's in the I can't remember if it's that he touched the water, if he touched the burn mark on the wall.
It was a
The
burn
other
mark.
two guys end up outwardly touching the doll, and not only did Charlotte, tack her name on the wall, she also knocked over that glass that had that thing in it. That's technically, I don't quote me on this, but that looks like what you would put it like that looked like a sacrificial offering because of the way it was bound and stuff like that. And that could have been considered another, like bad luck charm almost. So yeah, every single one of them did something in there they weren't supposed to, and it ended up killing them.
I didn't even make the connection between all of the shit that they did versus how they were, taken care of, like eventually by all the spirits and demons in the fucking asylum. I didn't even make that connection until just now. Mostly because I was like holding a pillow and just watching the movie. But
Fair.
I didn't even make that connection. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it makes me enjoy this movie even more.
Because I was sitting there being like, trying to figure out if I think that anyone's actually going to survive
Nope.
towards the end of the movie. And I was like, no,
Nope.
they've all fucked up too much. I don't think that they have a reason now. I
I
don't think it'll let them leave.
I think because of their nonchalant nature of going into this place and just being kind of like, this isn't real. This is all bullshit. We're just here for the sake of the live stream and for the sake of the content. I think that's kind of what caused them to be a little more callous,
They
which
got
then
tricked.
yeah, they got done because they ended up acting all, hunky dory and just been like, didn't think anything of it and didn't take it seriously. Therefore, they were taken care of, which I think
Yeah.
is really cool.
That's another big thing in Korean horror like this too, is like there's a lot of things that like it'll be like, you can't do this. Do not do that. They'll be like, don't do that at all. Actually, don't do that, or do this thing this exact specific way or else. And there's just a lot of people fucking that up and now having to deal with the consequences. And I think that's super interesting in the way that they write, where there's a lot of times where they will give the protagonists a way out as long as they do it right, and the protagonists decidedly don't do it right, and they pay the price for it.
I I do think that that's really cool because it gives Koreans a different perspective on the horror genre and this type of found footage genre, which may cause people to actually gravitate towards an international horror film more than they typically would, I myself
Hoping
included.
so. The few that I've seen that have been Korean horror movies, I have adored pretty much all of them.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, like, what other Korean horror films do you kind of connect with this with? Like, if you were to, look at this movie and look at other Korean horror films that you've seen before, like, what
No,
would kind
this
of mesh
is
well with this?
the first found footage Korean horror movie I've watched, which is why it was on my list because it was so highly rated. And I was like, well, I got to see that. That's like a bunch of my favorite stuff. But it is tonally quite similar towards the end, where it's like people experiencing the consequences of their actions, to a movie called The Wailing, where there is a lot of stuff going on in a town. and people are given certain rules to follow, and they don't follow them,
Yeah.
and things happen, and it's a bad time.
I think you mentioned The Wailing. I don't know if it was a pick for the horror draft or not, but I remember you mentioning The Wailing.
I do believe I
And
talked about we did that pod.
yeah, I think you did a little bit, and that's why I was like, okay, cool. But I think you mentioned quite a few like international horror films during that during that draft, and that's why I was like, oh yeah, like if there's anybody that I've got to get on here at least to get a different type of movie on the podcast, I'm like, I know I can at least hit Cole up and be like, yo, let's do this. I'm really like I was dreading this watching this movie, at least not this conversation, but watching this movie
Right.
all day. Like yesterday, I legit was like, I had plenty of time to watch this yesterday. I did. I had all the time in the world. But I was like, I'm gonna put this off until the very I was like, you know what? I could watch this tonight, but I was like, I'd rather sleep tonight. And I was like, you know what? I'll just watch it in the morning. And so I did. It woke me up. It gave me heart palpitations, like I texted you. Now, granted, I was already having them, so I don't know if this is necessarily connected to the movie, but whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, um, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. So I was like, okay, maybe I should like kind of branch out a little more, which I'm hoping that other people who see this podcast and listen to the podcast, they'll actually be willing to branch out into things like this. Cause I don't know a lot of people who actually watch a lot of international horror. You're like one of the only ones that I know that does. So I don't know if like this will cause someone to be like, oh yeah, let's go watch this movie or whatever.
There's something about especially Asian horror that's very mystical in the way that they do their stuff that I really enjoy as well. And as you
Yeah.
probably saw from that movie, there was a lot of things that you were like, huh? What
Yeah.
do we, when she opens the tent and she's back in the asylum,
That
that
was
was
freaky.
nuts.
And it was so
Yeah.
cool. It was so freaky. But I
And I
was
know
like, you know
exactly
what?
what
That's
they
all.
stole that from because that happens in Grave Encounters too.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, they leave so in Grave Encounters 2, they leave the asylum, go back to their hotel room, get
Hey,
into their hotel room, open the bathroom door. I think it's the bathroom or like the door to their hotel room, and it is the hallway in the asylum.
oh, that's wild.
It was insane.
I
I love that movie.
I really like the trippy nature of this. Like I'm very into like trippy movies, like sci-fi
Mhm.
movies that are trippy and stuff like that. Like Annihilation to me was like, trippy as hell. But
It's wild.
yeah, it is. And I like that feeling. So that was kind of like my favorite aspect of the movie was like the trippy and headiness of this movie. But I was thoroughly surprised by everything else that I got too, which is something that I did not expect. Um, where would you stack like if you were to put this in like whether it be top 10, top 5, top 20, like where would you put this in international horror films you've seen for you?
This is probably for me, it's in the top like 15. I'd say it's like 13th.
Okay.
I don't have all of those spots filled right now, but that's because I rate this movie personally as like a 7.3, 7.2 out of 10.
Nice.
So I'd definitely keep it up there on my list, but I don't know if I'd put it over the top 10.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Interesting. That just means that I need to watch more international horror films because, like, if you're putting this somewhere, in the top 15, then that means that there's a lot above it. So I'm very interested to see what other international horror films you like, and we may even end up doing another one because we will talk about like
There's
what to schedule. But
there's another film I saw recently that it's not international or anything, but it is just extraordinarily much better than I thought it would be
really,
that I can send to you to see.
okay.
It's technically a horror movie, but in like the strangest way.
Hmm. Okay. I'd be down. Interesting. All right. Um, is there any other thing that you wanted to touch on that we didn't really get to touch on about this film?
I would say I think it's very impressive. I couldn't tell how much was practical versus CG effects. And that really blew me away, especially in the scene when the two guys get off the phone with the captain and they walk into the room and they turn around and all of the furniture is on the ceiling. And I was like, I can't tell if that's CG or not. I think that they put that furniture on.
Yeah, and even like whenever all the shit was thrown around, I
Yeah,
couldn't tell if
I
like
was
there were
like,
strings. I couldn't tell if it was like
"Mm,
After Effects, like done,
it's
in
extremely
VFX.
well."
It was really
And
well done.
for like a horror movie like this that's found footage, in order to blend that, they have to make the footage a bit grainy. But all of this footage was so clear.
Hmm.
Really impressed me was the CG work versus the practical effect work as well in this movie.
Yeah, because you really couldn't tell,
Mm.
which I think is like really. I think practical effects in movies nowadays is like not happening as much as it used to. But for something like this, it really worked out, and it it just kind of shows how well done the filmmaking of this movie was during that section of the movie. Now, granted, the beginning part we can kind of I'm
Yeah,
ignoring most of that.
we can glance past it.
I'm ignoring most of that. I solely like to focus, at least when talking about this movie, and like the best part about this movie was from base camp onwards. Um, I think that it was all very well done, very well done, and I was shocked by it. Now, at the end of each podcast, I always ask the same two questions. First one is, you've already given this a first watch? Would you give it a rewatch at some point?
Yes, I could see myself telling people about this movie and watching it again with them.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd watch it fully by myself again, maybe just to get like some more nuances that I missed, but I'd probably watch it again.
yeah. I think I'm very much like you. I think I would watch it with other people, but I wouldn't watch it by myself because I've already seen it. I've already done what I need to do by myself. But if I'm watching it with other people and waiting for their reactions, that's
Yeah.
when I would, because I would be like, okay, I know it's coming. So I'm gonna see if they also kind of had the same feelings that I did. That would
Entirely.
really be the only reason why I'd rewatch this movie. But I think it does have a rewatch factor, at least for people who do like found footage movies and paranormal movies and horror movies alike.
Like if I were to watch like a review of this movie and someone were to give me some different viewpoint that I hadn't thought of while I was watching it, I might rewatch it again with that in mind.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's probably about it.
yeah. I didn't really like look into anybody else's views on the movie because I was just really focused on my own. But it it did make me curious. Like later tonight, like before I go to bed, if I find someone on YouTube who had seen the movie and talk about it, just because I'm curious to see what other stuff that they picked up on that I may not have picked up on. Um, but I do think that I would probably rewatch it again, which is again not like me, but I probably would end up rewatching it again. Um, if there is a movie that you really enjoyed, it doesn't have to necessarily be horror, but something that you don't think a lot of people have seen, that you think that somebody should see for the very first time outside of this movie, what would that be?
I'll say this is a movie that I would say someone who's not super into horror is getting into horror. And I don't think a lot of people have seen it. I would, and I want more people to see it. Watch Lake Mungo. That movie is phenomenal.
Another movie that you mentioned during the draft, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken.
Yeah, that one I had watched, I think the day before we did the draft,
That makes a lot of sense because
and
if I
it
remember correctly, you talked about it quite a
client.
bit. Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
It was
Um,
very cool.
that yeah, I thought about watching that movie whenever we were doing the draft, but I was like, yeah, maybe not. But based on the
It's a
fact that you picked
good,
this, I'm like, you know what?
yeah, it's a good entryway into enjoying horror, even though it's kind of a found footage movie, but like not really. It blends a couple of different types of genres, but it's not even fully a horror movie. It is just a movie with a really scary idea.
That's intriguing. Yeah, I don't know much about it, so I may have to like look into it and watch the movie. Cole, do you typically have like social media that you rely on? Do you have Letterbox? Do you have all these things
I don't have a letterbox yet. Vakasha's been nagging me about it,
buddy, how
but
do you not? Like seriously. How do you
I know.
not?
Him and Zach both have been on me about it pretty hard.
Um,
I have YouTube and Spotify.
okay. Do you actually like?
On Spotify, yes, I'm still working on some music for it. But
Hmm.
yeah, you can catch me on YouTube and Spotify at Squog, SQUOG.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I put everything like in the description and everything. So everything's gonna be there. I just wanted to like kind of shout you out so that you can,
Oh yeah. Thank
have
you.
people find you and stuff. I'm really glad that we did this. We're gonna schedule another one here in a minute. So if you have anything, or at least we'll do a date. At least we'll schedule a date. But if you don't have anything in mind, we'll figure that out. But I'm glad
Okay.
you came on. This was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do it
Thanks
again.
a lot.
Go watch this movie. It is free. I think that's why it's good. And until next time, bye.
Peace.